Hello, Internet Magic Man here today, and we're gonna do something a little different here. So I haven't posted, well, even on my own channel, any Final Fantasy XIV stuff, probably since Game Breaker when I did the guides there. But noticed that I wanted to do a little guide here, and again, take it for what it is. It's gonna be a little bit of help on some certain things for the Kugane jump puzzle. So right here, you would normally see your Sightseeing icon and do your /lookout. This is right in the center of Kugane, right when you start, and is Sightseeing log number 26, the hostelry, in the Stormblood Sightseeing guide. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on making some of these jumps because I love jump puzzles, love them, hope to see more of them in Final Fantasy XIV as we go along. So let's jump down and get started. Alright, so to get started on this jump puzzle, you want to go inside the inn, up the stairs, and out the side door. A little lag there, sorry. Gotta love recording software sometimes. Good old fraps! The puzzle starts here on the right with these wooden pegs sticking out of the building. Now we're gonna talk about the pegs in a second because you can kind of abuse their hitboxes a little, and it does make some jumps a lot easier. But I'm playing on the PC, and I want to talk about my controls. I use WASD to move, but I'm holding the right mouse camera button down. That way my A and D key are strafe left and right instead of turning left and right. So this entire time I'm holding the right mouse button down. These jumps are pretty easy, but to avoid the edge here, I'm going to jump towards the very far edge of this next peg that I'm trying to jump to. That way I don't clip the side of the building and end up falling down. But these will get you set up. Again, I'm going to jump out towards the edge. Instead of trying to make these jumps, right where I'm at, to the center of the beams, I'm going to be jumping to the far sides to avoid the roof. This one isn't too complex, this little segment, and once you get up on this roof, this is where it starts to get a little exciting. Alright, this second segment isn't that bad. There's really only 2 jumps to make. Now the first one, though, you want to jump on top of the corner pillar here, but don't overshoot it. You'll end up in the street and having to start over. And this I can make a very standard jump. I don't have to worry about clipping on the roof or anything. Now this roof is a catch-all for most errors that you might make as you go. And we'll come back to that in a second. It may not be all the time, but most of the time, this is as far down as you'll usually fall. Now, instead of doing what our friend is doing here, I'm going to use these wooden beams as my guide here by facing the wall. Since my momentum strafing left and right is no different than my momentum running forward and backwards, if I face the wall, I can use A and D as long as I'm holding the right mouse button down to face the wall and make these jumps laterally instead of always turning my camera to face the next piece of wood and jump. To make this roof, I always angle the camera down, as you saw there, just because sometimes it gets clippy and I want to make sure I don't slip. Now this secondary roof here, most of the time if you fall from above, you will end up here. Worst case scenario, you'll end up one roof below where we just were. But there are still chances if you really miss a jump, you could fall a lot further. So head to the right, jump on the little roof, and again, I'm going to use the pillars facing the wall. I found this to be the most useful trick for me. And using either no momentum jumps or going to the far side of a beam, and using A to strafe left and then jump left. And this straightforward jump is pretty self-explanatory. Now this can get a little complex right here, this first peg on this segment. If you don't jump once while you're on that green roof, then you tend to not be able to move. If you don't move far enough down the roof, when you try to jump to the peg, you will clip the side of the wall and won't make the peg at all. Or you'll be too far down the green slope, and you'll miss entirely. You won't have the height to make the jump. So I'm going to stop right here. This next jump, I'm going to aim for the edge of this peg, but let's overshoot it for a second and come back. I did not mean to fall down to that level, but that gives us a chance to watch the side-to-side jump again. And I can use the pillars to kind of course correct, where if I miss my jump, maybe I can land on a peg down below instead of falling, since I know where the pegs are. So face the wall, jump laterally right, then left, then right. Turn the camera to make the straight jump across, and totally miss it. Left, right. Jump straight across, up onto the green roof, jump. Oh, there we go. Now it frees me off the lock. Now see, I'm clipping the side of the wall there, even though it looks like I shouldn't be. So very careful to not only move left enough to clear the wall and its invisible hitbox area, but also don't go too far down the green roof, or you won't have the height to make the jump. Once you get started, face the wall, and we're going to do our lateral jumps. Now, this is a bit of a wider gap, so make sure you're cheating to one side and giving yourself a little bit of running room to make it, even though you're laterally jumping. Aim for the far edge of this pike, or this spoke of wood. Now, we're going to start abusing hitboxes up here. Notice that I'm off the edge. I'm not going to jump towards the middle. I want to jump towards the invisible hitbox off the end of this next piece of wood. And perfect. Still 1 foot on the wood. I'm going to do the same thing here because I want to aim for the far side of this ledge. Don't want to aim for the middle, or I'm going to clip this piece of wood and fall down. So look at abusing the hitbox on my where I was jumping from and jumping to the far side. This is a pretty straightforward jump that's got a lot of protection as far as stopping you, but sometimes with you, depending on your camera, you may have to just make it blind. Again, we have an easy jump. I'm just going to jump straight up to the peg. And this jump gave me the hardest time for a long time because I was trying to do the same thing. Cheat the hitbox and aim for the outside. The problem is the far edge of that is too far to make the jump. So you want to keep this one close to both pillars. So butt hump this pillar here and then jump towards the pillar side of your wooden spoke up there. Lot closer. We're going to do the same thing going the other way. Instead of aiming for the far edge, this time we're actually going to aim for the center of the spoke. Jump up there. Now, don't try to make this jump to this peg from here. Jump up once and get on the little ledge. This jump becomes a shit ton easier if you do that. It's almost nothing, and then jump your butt over the railing and get onto the balcony. Be careful here, because if you're too close, sometimes you'll have to jump a couple times, and you don't want to slip. You're almost done, but you're not there yet. Still not there yet. Gonna hop up on the railing. There's a spoke sticking out below, right here. We're gonna totally ignore that spoke. Instead, we're going to jump for the far side, the invisible hitbox side of the spoke we see in front of us, being careful to avoid the edges of the two pillars to our right. Again, we're going to jump as far out onto this spoke as we can. That way we're avoiding any clipping against the pillar. So jump as far out onto that pillar as you can. This is the last tricky jump, and it's only tricky sometimes because of the camera. Don't try, at least in my experience, don't try and make the jump from this angle, which seems like the most logical to make. It gives you the most area. I go right up against the building, and sometimes you got to finagle your camera a little bit here. I have it zoomed out to the max, but even zooming in really doesn't help. And I take the angle like this, a dead-on jump similar to the ones we made right at the beginning, where it's just jumping from a spoke to another spoke. Take that angle with this. In my experience, you'll hit it a lot more often than trying to take what seems like the better angle. Overshot it, but still abused the hitbox. Now we're on the roof. We're not done yet, but we are done as far as difficulty goes, as long as you don't get too excited yet. You still have 1 or 2 more things to do. Don't get jump happy and fall off the roof at this point. All we've got to do is come to the backside, get on that peg, and jump up. Now you can do it, at least I did it, from either this side or this side. Don't overshoot this jump and go crazy and shoot your ass onto the street there. Just a quick jump onto the decorative woodwork here. Jump up onto the peg, and you, my friend, are at your sightseeing log. /look out at the amazing view and enjoy. I don't know if any of you will find this helpful, just a couple tricks that I figured out after trying to do this a dozen or so times and getting it all done. I can now make it with relative ease very quickly. So if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, and this is Magic Man saying I'll see you later.